Yet. And ladies and gentlemen, we are live once again. Greetings from your somewhat semi-savvy, politically minded host, Abby Kaufman. And we're here with you at our secret undisclosed location on Newport Harbor, Newport Beach, California. And today I'm going to give you guys a real treat just for tuning in. Thought about this. I made this up just yesterday, I think. As a matter of fact, I even set it to music and recorded it. So if you guys take a look at the profile, you'll know which one it is. And anyway, it's called Blue Tsunami. And it goes like this. We'll beat them so hard, they'll be screaming for mommy. They were expecting a blue wave and got a blue tsunami. So, guys, if that doesn't deserve a round of applause, I don't know what does. Matter of fact, that was so good it might even deserve 2 rounds of applause. Okay, enough of the foolishness. And guys, I don't know if you recall, we spent most of the day yesterday chatting about Trump's enormous bungles from from early on, and it was only like 3.5 pages. So it wasn't like over. It wasn't. It was not a very flattering picture that was painted. And but the what I had noticed was that there's always a certain pattern to this guy, and he'll buy something, then he'll run it up with debt, then it goes bankrupt, and of course he gets the money from the indebtedness. I mean, those banks, Deutsche Bank, God knows how much they wrote off for him. And in my book, that's kind of like a gift, which is kind of like subject to taxation. I'm sure that point isn't lost on our 47th president. And I said the fact yesterday about certain patterns repeating themselves in people's lives made me want to take, as a matter of fact, I'm going to take you guys on a journey. I'm going to take you on a journey to a deep, dark place where, trust me, man feared to tread. Uh, and no, it's, well, what the heck? You guys kind of guess who it is. And if you recall, Trump's big promise was revenge or retribution, whatever word he used, retribution. And it occurs to me that people that seek revenge and retribution just might have similar psychological characteristics. And I thought we would take a little look see at those things. And, just, the basic net stuff, which I hope you don't know. But people who seek revenge are typically driven by a mix of heightened trait anger, emotional volatility, and a deep seated desire to regain control or status. Research shows they are often struggle to forgive, imagine that, and may derive active pleasure from inflicting pain on those who have wronged them. Now, before I go like any deeper, does that like conjure up any images of like anybody who just might be kind of like subhuman and orange tinged and occupying the White House? Uh, but that's okay. Barack Obama and Joe Biden are living rent free in his head 24/7. So, anyway, and it goes on to say that psychological and sociological studies highlight several core characteristics of individuals prone to vengeance. How about just that phrase, individuals prone to vengeance? Now, I'm just kind of speculating, but I don't really think I'd want like my son or daughter, if I had one, to marry someone that you know is prone to vengeance. That's more than a little scary. Anyway, so now we'll take a look at some of the core personality traits. And again, let me know 949-629-3820 and let us know what's going on. And let me see, if you think I'm wrong, tell me. If you think I'm right, call and agree with me. Abby Kaufman, 949-629-3820. But back to the core personality traits. And I know this will be a shocker. Number one on the core personality trait list is, and it's too, this is almost too depressing to even go with the drum roll intro and all that, but the number one core personality trait is sadism. Does that give you a clue? And seen as a dominant trait, meaning these individuals often actually enjoy seeing others suffer. Okay. How about number two, neuroticism? How about he struggles to regulate negative emotions? Often ruminates on the past offenses for extended periods. Who could that be? Fueling their desire for payback. So not only are these people enjoy people suffering, but they let it stew for a long time. And you can imagine just what builds up in that time. It's, so far it's like two, and I don't think either one of those two characteristics are like really good. And the orange tinge subhuman being that's occupying the White House kind of, he's batting 1,000 so far. He's got them both. And number three on the list of core personality traits is, how about impulsivity? Many revenge seekers act on impulsive emotional responses and struggle to weigh the long term consequences of their actions. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you at this point, what do you say? Are there any counter arguments? And I say, feel free to I'll listen to your argument, and we'll see who has an argument. And don't forget, just because you have an argument doesn't mean you have a winning argument. Just because you have an argument doesn't mean it's like has the as a don't think that it creates a 50-50 probability that one of us will or that will be neutralized. No, this is you'll generally find it's kind of like in the courtroom. The one guy says, "You stole my dog," and the other guy says, "No, I didn't," and he's got dog marks or something. So you would have to, and so you know what happens? The "you stole my dog" guy, the complainer, the guy who was the subject of theft, is believed. And he's believed because the judge of the jury determines that he had more credibility than the guy on the other side. And life kind of comes down like that. You hear one point of view, and you look at him and you go, that's not right. And I would, since I keep saying this is a all hands on deck alert. And at this point, how anybody can doubt that, I don't know. The destruction daily is just astonishing. Just when you think he's reached a new low, he goes even lower. Um, at any rate, does anybody have any idea what they're saying about us overseas? Well, they're actively, they're not moving away so much as Trump threw them away. He came in swaggering, and Europeans are leeches on the U.S. and again, he just did not appreciate the long term implications of diplomacy, and he has this really great tendency to just completely ignore contrary facts and opinions, and to live in a manufactured world of I'm great. So, and there's an assistant. What is her name? I think it was Natalie Hart, maybe something like that. And her job is to print out positive articles of Trump 24/7 and hand it to him to make him feel good in the moment. And you can, and this is like, and that kind of like a drug, an addiction, and all that. It seems like some kind of a mental addiction. And and oh, I'm going to backtrack for just a second. And does anyone in the world believe that we didn't surrender, that we didn't lose the war, that Iran beat us with inferior equipment? Yeah, I mean, they did. And Trump just signed away the keys. Said, "Here, guys, take the kingdom and go. I don't, I'm out." And you know, when you do that, you betray a lot of people. You betray the people you went to war for in the first place. You betray the people you went to war with, and you betray the innocent victims all around. I mean, let's not forget what forgot how many thousands of Iranian citizens were murdered during the protest. And Trump says, "Don't worry, help is on the way." Well, doesn't that create an obligation to actually send help that's on the way? Apparently not. He just sacrificed the Strait of Hormuz. He just sacrificed Israel. He just sacrificed all the other Middle Eastern countries except Iran. And what does Iran get? $300 billion in the right to sell oil again. Mm. I mean, they won. They just pure and simple won. And every time someone wants to spin this as a massive victory, I'm going to depend on the inherent uh, judgment of the American people to see what's real and what's not, to see what's the illusion that's created compared to the reality that the illusion is designed to hide. And when you think about it, an illusionist world is exactly what he does. Isn't TV nothing but imagine and make believe and all that? I mean, with the exception of the reality shows, and even those things are. Can we say they're like doctored a little bit? Somebody had a little hand in the actual script and dialogue. Okay, so guys, you can't be surprised when he brings TV production to everything he does. And does anybody remember there was a movie? I cannot tell you how long ago it was, and it was a Peter Sellers movie, and it was based on a book written by a Polish author who lived in America, Jerzy Kosinski, and the book was called Being There. And the movie, of course, had the same name, and it was about this innocent-minded gardener who becomes the president of the United States. And he's just a completely hollow vessel. All he knows is watching TV. That's all he's ever done all his life. And if you're so inclined, two things I try not to do is suggest people spend their time doing X or spend their money on Y. But I do think this is more than a little, what's that word, poignant at the moment. We can't be oblivious to the obvious decline. And I'm sure people are feeling sad, sorry for them and all this, but when you look at both sides of the argument, the damage done versus the price paid, and we'll be paying for this for decades. He alone added $3.8 trillion to the bill, another 10%. And let's see, what did he use it for? I don't know, maybe helping young kids buy homes. Nah, I don't think he did that. Did he do that so that they could have a little bit of healthcare delivery and maybe, women would get, pregnancy wouldn't be a roulette wheel? No, he didn't do that. But what did he do? Oh, we thought you never asked. Well, of course, he gives the $3.8 trillion back to the people that contributed to him. And, if anybody is under the impression that Donald Trump's number one priority is anything other than Donald Trump, please, God, call in. I would love to talk to you. Abby Kaufman, 949-629-3820. And, just like I said, please call. It would absolutely make my day. And, as a matter of fact, let's double check we get the old sorry for running, because nothing pleases me more than a chat with a faithful caller. And we'll see if we get if anybody feels like chatting today. But now that we've got that done, it's always a little better. Okay, and now we can actually go back to what we were doing. And what we're doing was talking about the incredible mental problems demonstrated by people who seek revenge and vengeance. And like I say, at this point, I don't know why anybody in the world, or why everybody in the world, isn't talking about the elephant or the pig in the room. I mean, we can't ignore this, and it's not normal. It hasn't been normal, and it never will be normal to act like this. Now, the interesting thing today is going to be how, what John Thune and President Trump have to say about their meeting. I forgot at whatever Senate office building, because Trump's actually going to the Senate for this. And this is a crucial moment. And the reason it's a crucial moment is that, as designed, as according to the Constitution, you have three co equal branches of government. They are equal, they respect each other, no one gets more than the other. The Supreme Court does have a final say, but, it's how it is. As faulty as the system is for putting justices on the court, it's what the Constitution calls for. And if we ever get enough votes, I'm short term limits would be really nice. I don't see where my, you know, I don't want my granddad or great granddad making those sorts of monumentous decisions in their later years. I think that a 10-year term would be fine. I think that kind of splits the difference between presidents and election years. So I would be all for that, and I think everybody else is. But as you can see, it's going to take a really big deal to change the composition of the court, particularly if Alito and Thomas retire. And you would have to think that that they're just about pretty tired of that. I'm sure they both want to go around with their corporate friends and not and continue to not be influenced by the fact that those friends have corporate jets and flying all over. And oh, did I tell you how good the food can be? I didn't. Well, trust me, those guys eat pretty well. And if I was a betting person, that old glass of red wine with dinner, I bet that's more like a glass or two. And I bet that it just might be like really good. Just speculating, I'd say I would hate to be in a Supreme Court justice's shoes and have to fly corporate and private and eat that damn fresh salmon every night. But they sacrifice for their country too, don't they? Okay, so let's get back. And you know, it, I've got to tell you guys, whoever says they voted for Trump reluctantly in this deal, I always ask them following question. I said, did you pull the lever like 50% and leave it? Did you pull it 75% and leave it? Or did you pull the lever all the way over and actually vote for the guy? And of course, that usually I don't make many friends doing that, but the point. It doesn't matter. It's the deed. And in the beginning, there's always the deed. There's always that one event that shapes things for a long time. But anyway, let's get back to Trump's mental illnesses. How do you laugh at that? And the reason you laugh at it is because it's so obvious. It's the elephant in the room that people don't want to talk about. And if I was a major network, I might not want to upset the guy that holds my license and my right to make money, but on the other hand, you got to push back. Like I said, there are three co-equal branches of government. The legislature was designed to be able to stand up against the executive, and the court system was designed to sort out the messes in between. And anyway, let's just kind of leave that on hold for a second, because the next social and status kind of deal is that these people who seek revenge and vengeance have a need for dominance. Can you believe that? There are links between vengefulness and social dominance. So these people just want to be like the gorilla in the room. And these individuals crave power and authority and use retaliation to protect their status and save face. Huh. Are we still checking the boxes here? I kind of hope we are, because I think that's another one. But number two, and hot on its heels is number two, it is authoritarianism, a deference to strict social hierarchies, like when you refuse to rent apartments to Black Americans, and respect for rigid traditions, like there are such things as black jobs, is highly correlated with an approval of retributive punishment. Are you guys starting to get scared now? I mean, I hope this is, all I want people to do is like talk about this. I'm quite sure if people can't do that of which they are unaware. And, I can understand people that, go up, get a what 6 in the morning, leave the house 7:30, drop the kids off, go to work, uh, work what 8 or 9 hours till 5 or 6, and then come home and how much time does that give them to be really informed? I mean, I'm not super informed. I've got a bit more time to get ready for this. So there are people that just I guess it'd be a combination of information deprivation and I think what Chris Hayes had called some sort of a battle for your attention span. Everybody wants to capture your attention for that 30 second, 60 second, whatever it is, buzz, right? I guess, and kind of a clickbait thing. So, like I said, we're going further and further away from. What? Let me back up a second. We were going further and further away from the notion of three co-equal branches of government because you had the Republicans in the House and Senate, the legislative branch, working in unison or being directed by the executive branch, the president. And at that point, there's no, the Senate or Congress was designed to be a check on the presidency, not an enabler. And the question then becomes, well, why did they enable? Well, they enable because they kind of like their nice cushy Republican jobs. And I mean, if United States senators, they live a pretty good life. I mean, that's a pretty exclusive club. 100 people. Yeah, it's really it's not like you're a peasant in the house. 435. Yeah, won't bite me. We've got 100, and what we say goes. So, uh, anyway, back to the back to the case at hand or the case at study, and then the next section. God, I wish I didn't laugh at this. Cognitive and emotional profiles. And number one is low agreeableness. Now, how can that be? Okay, they generally lack empathy, benevolence, and universal connectedness, making it difficult for them to sympathize with the wrongdoers. I mean, does that deserve like one or two checks? And this is it's just scary how accurate this is. Sensitivity or sensitivity to injustice, and they have a highly personalized sense of justice. Like justice isn't breaking the law. Justice is, or an offense is offending me, and I want justice. I mean, like, and when you couple that with a strong sense of entitlement, and they usually take innocent just kind of slights or rejection just deeply. I mean, these guys, and like I said, they let it stew and they seek revenge. And the guy, it's nothing that wasn't disclosed. I mean, Kayla just told you guys, or told us. If you like me, I'll come in with a to-do list. If you like this guy, he comes in with a revenge list. What do you want? And how in the world the answer to that is, we want the monster. I'll never know. I mean, we had a chance to have a really, really intelligent Democrat, and look what we got. We've got a guy whose brain is so scrambled, who lives in his own reality, who can't. I mean, how? I'm sorry, but one of the more funny things lately is that reflecting pool. Some the guy's just incompetent, and it goes back, like I said, to his earliest days as we kind of chatted about yesterday, and I'm happy to email anybody a list of the kind of failures. I'll email you PDF is what I'll do, and let's see, just give us an email, united at democracyradionetwork.com, and I will get it to you within 24 hours. It like I said, it's something we cannot ignore, especially after the Iran deal. I mean, those he sold everybody out to save his skin. Do you guys, I hope you have some appreciation of what that really means. I mean, tell that to the 13 American families who lost kids. Well, I didn't really mean the war, and oh, you can charge a toll to go through the Strait of Hormuz. We'll give you 300 billion, and oh yeah, go ahead and no more sanctions, and start selling oil on the open market, and be good boys. This it's just it's beyond insanity. I mean, it's like some weird Hollywood guy letting his imagination just work in the darkest political ways possible. I hate to keep sighing like that, but it's this is a tough deal. Okay, so after the perceived injustices, they also have, get this, low forgiveness. And of course, those guys see it as being weak or vulnerable. But and if I'm not mistaken, isn't that one of those Jesus things, like forgive and do unto others and all that? Uh, I think I kind of remember a little something about Jesus and forgiving and all that. So it's just yeah, I don't know if that passage got like written out of the Trump Bible with a copy of the Constitution and enclosed for the low price of what are they, $60? And I think he sold like $300,000 worth. So those now I can only imagine those really went to the diehard MAGA people. I mean, other than just being able, I mean, other than the privilege of burning one, so there'd be one less of those things on Earth. There's just no compelling reason to buy the sacred book of Christians everywhere for $60. That's gold, so you can have your name on it. I mean, what were we thinking? Anyway, so and let's talk about how they express all this, how they put it into action. Well, if you're an extrovert, like you can kind of imagine Trump to be, they tend to be highly visible social mechanisms. They may use, get this, public shaming, gossip, or exclusion to damage a wrongdoer's reputation. Again, bingo, bingo. We are, how many, how many like oranges or prunes or whatever it is on the slot machines would that be? I think we're up to like 6 or 8 in a row. Uh, and this is so anyway. Uh, I don't, I'm getting a little depressed going into the specifics of this, but let's just say that come, you know, let's get ready, guys. This is a huge deal. I mean, out here in California, I don't know where you guys are, uh, but the Democrats are coming out strong, and the Republicans, even in the Central Valley, they can't ignore the financial realities. Have their lives gotten better or worse? Do they have more markets to sell their soybeans in, or fewer markets? Huh. Okay, I would think they have fewer markets. Did they cost more to transport? Yes. Can the market sustain a reasonable price so that the farmers can make a little profit? No. And this is another market thing that Trump just is oblivious to. And the beans and all that, it's after a while you just, and when prices are going down, you get short sellers in, and they just start squeezing and driving the price farther down, and they make money, and the farmers someone's got to cover that margin, and it's usually the farmers. um, so yeah, we've got fewer markets. And how about, just as a general proposition, can anyone name an ally that we like used to have that doesn't think we're just a worthless POS? And you can't argue with them. You cannot argue with anybody who kind of you know degrades the president. He just does it. There's not much to be said or done. So anyway, let's see here. I think somebody's trying to be like really annoying and pumping up some kind of music. So we'll assume it won't get through this Rode Pod mic that I dearly love so much. So guys, It's June 24th, and that leaves what 3 or 4 months for or actually 2 months. I'm sure the campaigns are starting to get in gear now. The field ops guys are laying the groundwork. You'll see the indivisible and the no kings thing start back up again, and you know it's just a necessary thing. We have a right to vote, and I kind of joke about term limits sometimes, and that I come tell people we already have term limits. They're called elections. So what can you say beyond that? They're just yeah, and the exploitation of the rules as it stands, it's only going to get worse. And not only do we have to turn out our guys, but the big deal is how do we? I'm sure we have people anticipating and even using AI to suggest Republicans' various moves. But don't forget, it's not like they are unassisted. As of now, they have the House and the Senate. They can pretty much write whatever bill they want and get it passed through strict party lines if they want. The Senate's a little problem with that 60 vote threshold, but there are plenty of instances where a majority vote in the Senate is used, and you kind of circumvent the rules by doing that. But you know, with in Washington, if you don't have power, you've got bupkis, and the only thing worse than having bupkis is having skadookus, because skadookus is like 10 bupkises. It just gets pounded to you daily that you don't have the majority and you cannot stop them. And that was just a crucial election result. And how about the Supreme Court justices? How about Mitch McConnell just stealing a Supreme Court seat? In no way is that guy a hero. He's just a ruthless politician who, kind of like the guy he proposed to hate, Donald Trump, thinks he's just entitled to do things differently, and he's not. I'm going to tell you, I actually think that was treason. When the Senate is charged with advising and consenting, I think the reasonable application is that this is to be done within a reasonable time. And it's too close to the election. Well, pal, I'm president until the final day. So, does that leave the door open for abuses? Geez, I don't know. Let's look at what happened the last time somebody who was getting ready to leave office, how they exercise their pardon power. And by the way, how many millions of dollars has that brought in? At this point, I was telling somebody, I see no difference between what Trump is doing and taking tractor trailer trucks and backing them up to the Treasury and just telling the Treasury just shuffle the bills on in. And it's just highway robbery and theft, and let's see, at this point, it's going to be really interesting. Does the Senate really find a backbone and start acting equally? Like, we don't care what you say. This is it. And John Thune was I think he was a railroad lobbyist before he was kind of gifted the Senate seat up there. And have you ever wondered why your credit card stuff comes from like South Dakota, North Dakota, whatever it is? Well, it's low. If you want to take a look, you won't be surprised. I promise. Geez, I'm trying to talk as best I can here. But so, guys, it's Donald Trump is just square. If you had any idea what the Europeans are saying, I mean, the mess he's going to leave behind, you cannot imagine. He's literally set every country on fire against us. I asked you a few minutes ago, do we have any really good allies anymore? And and Iran beat us in a war. Iran beat us. Trump caved, and when he caved, I keep saying this, he betrayed everybody. He promises the people of Iran, as they're getting massacred in the street, help is on the way.
So what? They believe him, right? Well, sorry guys, didn't mean it. Well, real life doesn't work that way, pal. And how about the Emirates and Dubai and let's just kind of blow by the $400 million jet gift for right now, because that Weasel's going to try and find some way to take it with him. I got, I would hate to be the movers to get them out of the White House, because I guarantee you that you might laugh, but everything that ain't nailed down is kind of seems like fair game. He's gonna peel the gold stuff off the wall and take it with him, or is he gonna leave it as a tribute, as a shrine to his superior presidency? So guys, I see now the Chinese really don't want to buy our soybeans, and they found other sources, and we've always had competitors. We've just never had anybody open the door for them. And he just kneecapped the country, and he still gets support. I cannot fathom this. I'm told by a psychological friend of mine uh, that uh, that when people believe Trump, it's so central to their identity that any perceived wrong is just impossible for him to commit. He's like perfect. And when you have that officer, religious, whatever it is, in the White House, telling him or telling the world that what was it? Jesus had to die so he could be risen, so Trump could be risen. Like that's don't you find that a little offensive? And and I don't want to talk bad about all evangelicals, and I clearly won't. But just as a social history, the problem is that way back when colonies were settled, and in my case, 1670, Charleston, South Carolina was founded in 1670, and the colonies were founded for religious freedom. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. So anyway, as people start moving to the colonies, churches spring up, and who runs the churches? But usually people that came over from England at that point, and they had some theological training or some background somehow. Anyway, they were educated is the point, and they built the churches and tended the flock, and some of the older ones are still in existence in Charleston. There's the French Protestants called the Huguenots. There's still the Anglican Church. We've got stuff that's been around a while. But anyway, as more and more people came to the country, lots of people that came didn't have enough money to stay on the coast. And coastal regions usually mean trade and commerce, and an opportunity to live. Uh, so let's say you don't have much money and you just keep moving inland till your family can finally settle. But you're still kind of a religious people. You still kind of believe in God and the Bible and all this. So what happens is you get the lay preacher, the guy from I don't know what he would do back then, but you get the lay preacher who reads the scriptures and interprets the scriptures. Now, keep in mind he has absolutely no formal training for this, but he's going to interpret scriptures for us. And as you can imagine, he's not like bound to any religiosity other than what he can conceives of. So, and anyway, it just the problem just festers and festers. You keep getting generation after generation of uneducated theological people, and eventually you get like the cult spring out. And my favorite cult, these guys, I hope they're not Seventh Day Adventists, because I actually know some Seventh Day Adventists and they're really nice. But have you guys heard about these snake handling cults, the religious snake handlers? These guys amaze me no end. Here's what they do: they get, I don't know, a cage full, a bag full. I don't know how you do them. They buy a bunch of poisonous snakes. Maybe they raise them, but it seems like eventually they'd run out of people to raise them. Uh, but anyway, they have these poisonous snakes, and then they give one to, I don't know, Brother Abby to handle, they tell me to fear not, because if you have the Spirit of the Lord, you will be protected. And of course, next thing you know, I've been, bitten and stung, and my eyes are bulging out, and my tongue's hanging out, and I'm dying, in plain sight. So yeah, and at that point, the fault is with me because I was not pure enough to deserve God's protection, and the snake kind of proved it. And I would, I kind of think about this. I guess I might have some like Adam and Eve and snake in the Garden of Eden and all this. And while we're coming up with little interesting facts here, did you guys know? I think in Mormonism, the Garden of Eden is like in upstate New York. Uh, I wish I could tell you that's not true, but I'm pretty sure it is. Uh, so you see, when people start claiming holy wars and God is on our side and all this, it changes. It no longer becomes a social thing. I mean, this is a deep movement. So, but I do hope the snake handlers do kind of keep a little anti venom stuff on hand. Uh, I'm sorry, that just religion takes just so many different forms. And as I was in New Mexico and looking at some Native American things, God only knows what really happened back then. But can you imagine what the number one, the sky was dark at night. So they saw the stars and the constellation, and they must have just been in complete awe. I mean, think about it. Has anyone, I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen like a real dark sky, moon, dark, a real dark sky period, not a dark sky moon. But to have a dark sky, you have to go to the new moon. Uh, at the new moon, which is, of course, no light. And I was in Blanding, New Mexico, and I forgot. I think they call it Rainbow Bridge National Monument or something. And it was like, one of the early, early, early dark sky parks. And it was just like the tiniest sliver of a moon. I'll never forget this. And I got out of the car and walked around, and it was like a flashlight. The sky was so dark. The moon, I mean, I felt like I was, lit up on in neon on Broadway. It was just one of the most spectacular things I'd ever seen. And I've never been close enough to be there when there's a new moon and a really dark sky. But I have been in like Zion, and there's a place near Zion called the Lavercan Overlook, which is a little roadway off the main road, and a lot of times people go there to car camp because hotels and motels are pretty expensive when you're that close to Zion. Within that, at that point you're within, I don't know, 3 miles, maybe 2 miles. Zion is on the out just before you get to Zion. There's a little town called Springdale, and it's another one of those cool kind of tourist towns. But anyway, if you want to have the great outdoors right at disposal to your favorite restaurant, all that, find a good place in Springdale. You won't be sorry. Of course, the farther away from Springdale, God only knows. And talk about Utah. There's a place near Bryce, near Bryce Canyon, and it's called, God, somebody's Western something. Oh God, I can't remember it now. But anyway, it's a big like Best Western or Great Western, something Western. Oh, Ruby's. It's called Ruby's. That's what it is. And they have, it's like a little company town. I mean, you can do everything just right in this. There's like 2 or 3 blocks. You can go see a show. Of course, a local production, and of course, you can eat. You can eat in the nice place or the not so nice place. I noticed I didn't say cheap place. There really is nothing because there's not much around Bryce. There are lots little towns, Panguitch, and all those things. Would love to take a little more time and explore. But I do have to say that the American West is completely magical. Once you cross, well, of course, once you get into like Albuquerque, New Mexico, and then you have to make a decision to go east, west, or north, south. Taos is a couple of hours north. So actually, Santa Fe. So you get off like near Albuquerque, then you have to drive up to Santa Fe and the Palace of the Governors and all that, which is Santa Fe is a spectacular town. But it's the same deal. As wealthy people move in, other people get crowded out, and eventually it kind of hollows out because the people that need the jobs can't afford to live near the jobs. So the it becomes kind of even more exclusive because there are fewer and fewer people competing. Okay, so anyway, once you get in like just north of Albuquerque, then you start to see or you start to feel the calmness. And I'll never forget the first time I did this. I was relatively young and drove my 1976 Triumph TR6 cross country, and it was just a flawless automobile. Uh, so anyway, as I'm going up to Taos, I know I want to see Taos. I stopped in at this. I think it's like a what do you call those things? Like blanket weavers and all that. There's a lot of stuff there, or there was. And so I kind of walked in, said I'm kind of driving cross country, and didn't know if you might be able to recommend a decent place to motel or something to stay. And the guy says, "Well, you're more than welcome to come to my house." And of course, I was a little, a little wary. But he's a perfectly nice guy named Jeff. We chatted for a bit. I thanked him no end. And so I go into town itself, and what do I see before me? But this kind of old, cool-looking motel called the El Pueblo Motel. And the old El Pueblo was just great. We would, whenever I would drive cross country or take my mom to or from, we would always stop off at the El Pueblo. And of course, we would have to eat at El Pueblo and, just kind of spend a few days unwinding, even though whether we needed unwind was a entirely different question. But my point being is, once you get up there, you start feeling the Native American influence. And by that, I mean, don't forget, the Native Americans didn't own things. It was all communal. They shared. And there's just that kind of relaxed openness uh, that I just found striking. I'd never seen anything like that before. And of course, it made a really big impression. But anyway, from Taos, there's not you can kind of keep going up through Colorado, and I think that's on like the 25 freeway or something. And what I like to do from there is take that main freeway interstate up through Colorado, and then you can make a left turn. I think it's like on Highway 24, maybe 60 or 70 miles south of Denver, and it puts you on this little really cool road, and you pass all these towns you'll later read about, like Leadville, and there are some others that would jog my memory. But once you there, you kind of changes to the arid Native American kind of scenery. It's starting to get a little more like rivers and greenery in that part of Colorado. And I said draw, and you get to go. There's one. I don't know. I don't remember where this was, but I remember it's really cold. I mean, just bitter cold. And I was taking this Independence Pass. It was some big deal way back when. And I stopped at the top for a second. I got out of the car and looked at the guy next to me. I said, "Do you have any idea what the altitude is?" And the guy goes, 14. And I'm like, "Oh." And of course, that meant 14,000 feet. I'm like, what's that? Almost 3 miles up. So I decided I would just kind of get back in my car and go back down the hill in the lowest gear possible, and try not to like die. But anyway, Colorado has these really cool things, and it kind of sets you up for that big. But if you want to go all the way up to Denver, you can go all the way up to Denver and make a left and get on that Eisenhower Tunnel. That would. I'd be honest with you, I couldn't do it. It kind of creeped me out. I was more than happy to take the slow back road through like Lead Bell, and it takes you through Aspen, and every little ski town you've heard there's a sign pointing to, and they're all fairly close. Uh, and it's you gotta love those kind of outdoors and the way people, uh, guides. There's not in these sorts of places there aren't tremendous economic opportunities, and they depend on tourism. And it's really nice when they're patronized and get a chance to make a few dollars. God knows, I don't think I would go up in like just any, maybe like helicopter tour. I think I'd be a little iffy about that. And, I want to say, was that in Colorado or Utah? I think it was Colorado, when there's this old junky yellow helicopter parked on, like at the curb with the sign that said like, rides $20. And I, and I hate to tell you guys, but I might like to do things kind of inexpensively, but I think I'd be more than happy to spend a little more money for like a reputable helicopter that didn't just like scare the living daylights out of me. And it's not like those things have wings. They don't like a plane doesn't do a very good job of gliding, and it has wings. A helicopter does a uniquely poor job of gliding. Um, so be that as it may, and it was just I didn't want to be one of those people that calls into George Noory Coast to Coast with a near death experience and tell them about the helicopter ride or crash, as the case may be. At that point, you just hope that the aspen trees will cushion your fall. Oh, but anyway, and there's a really nice place. I think just before Grand Junction or past Grand Junction around there, called Green River. I think it's Green River, Utah, maybe. And this place had some. It was like a major truck uh, place, and every hotel would have tons of truck drivers. But it just seemed like I magically always stopped in the same place, and I have no idea why I do this, but it's an incredibly good place to eat, and it's kind of thing where you would have to work really hard to spend over $10. So, and another thing, while we're talking about the kind of rural West, I said there's lots of little towns up there, Torrey and around Zion, like Torrey and Hurricane, and Torrey and Hurricane, St. George, all those things. Uh, but anyway, there's not a what was I going to say? Oh, if what about young people that want to move or stay near their parents? I was curious, how much could a house be in Torrey, Utah, or Hurricane, Utah, or you get the idea. So as I checked, they were like almost $400,000, and if I'm not mistaken, yeah, if you had to put 20% of that down, that's like $80,000 before you had the privilege of paying, principal and interest on $320,000. And how? Let's assume that you're gainfully employed and young and all that. Do you make anywhere near enough for the bank to actually lend you that kind of money? Of course not. Uh, so it's housing's a very real problem all over. And of course, the other side is, let's assume houses come down. What if $400,000 house is now only $300,000? And what about all the banks that hold the notes on those $400,000 that are now worth $300,000? That would just be a financial catastrophe that I don't know how you sort out. I would imagine at that point it's almost an AI kind of question, and I'm sure you would consult it just to see. But see, that's the flip side of this: is everybody wants cheaper, but the implications are just damning. And if you were to ask me, I would pretty much bet that Trump can no longer appreciate the implications of anything. If he had any idea of the implications of what his terms of surrender were to Iran, uh, and honestly, I cannot wait for him to come on TV, make a national address about this. I think it's kind of warranted, to be honest with you. And if I was him, Well, yeah, I probably wouldn't want to show my face in public, but I'm sure if he knows of the dissent, he's got to come out and defend himself. I mean, he's just that kind of a bully. Of course, he won't defend himself with anything, with any substance. And I had an old professor who would make that kind of distinction between the shadow and the substance, between the illusion and the real. And you got to watch out for those illusions. And unfortunately, God lives in one. He makes it happen. He has effectively created his own reality and is bending us to it. Uh, if that sounds the least bit dangerous, it should. Uh, I can only hope that the Senate Republicans just stood up and had a little backbone. And what I think is, up until now, a Trump association was beneficial. I don't think it's necessarily so automatic anymore. Uh, and if it ain't so automatic anymore, that means that it's not in politicians' best interest to kiss his behind to get said endorsement. So, and it's gonna be like every other Trump deal. When it collapses, he gets away scot free and leaves, the banks, the taxpayers, whoever it is. He just does not care one whit about America, about its citizens, about its farmers, about its college students, about its husbands and wives and kids, and giving them a chance at a better future. I mean, everything that's been done points to a really dark future. And I guess the only question is how dark for how long. And, have you heard about the Rokana Elon Musk dust up, where Rokana had supported documentation and made a statement that by dismantling USAID and Musk and Doge will have killed 500,000 kids. Now, of course, there's three kinds of lies: there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. Uh, but I'm pretty sure that a guy like Rokana would not just go spouting off like this. He's not a rash guy by any stretch of the imagination, and he's a real. We're really fortunate to have him in the state, even though he's not uh, my representative. At least we have him. So anyway, Rokana. Oh, so yeah, so Musk is suing Ro Khanna for defamation, saying that he caused the death of 500,000 kids. And to me, that's kind of like First Amendment stuff. I mean, what can't you say? Can I call your mother a cheap whatever it is? Yeah, I mean, I can. It might not be advisable. It might be the limit of daylight out of me, but I can say it. And don't forget, all freedom of expression means, and free speech means that the government won't punish you or cannot punish you for your words. When they get into action, it's a little different. But and has anybody been to Speaker's Park in London, where everybody just kind of spouts out whatever it is? That to me is pure freedom of expression. I'm pretty sure that they would that they tone it down if there's any outrageous threats. Just, but I think short of like being institutionalized or sheer lunacy, you can have your say at Speaker's Park. And you see, guys, America is about freedom, freedom of religion, freedom to worship. And what do we see choices being given to us, or do we see choices being taken away? From my angle, it's clearly choices taken away. Can people choose to ask for a government subsidy to help pay their health premiums? Not anymore. And the list just goes on and on and on. Uh, oh, sorry, guys. But it's closing in on an hour or so, so I'm going to go ahead and heed the call of nature. And thank you everybody for tuning in and watching today. It's always a blast to do this. And like I said, give us a call if you like, 949-629-3820. Put it on speed dial while it's starting your phone. And speed dial, not an old thing. And or send us an email, united at democracyradionetwork.com. And we are united at DemocracyRadioNetwork.com. So, guys, it's like an hour or so, and my voice is, I see, going right at the 1 hour mark. So, I'm going to check on out of here and actually try to get a few things done. So, thanks, William, for hanging with me. We've enjoyed every second. And what do we always say about this time? I think it's something like Roger.